President Vladimir Putin has signed a decree suspending Russia's double taxation agreement with what it calls unfriendly countries, those that have imposed sanctions on Moscow. Meanwhile, Russia says that it has struck a Ukrainian military command post in the eastern Ukraine town of Pokrovsk, a day after a fatal attack, Ukrainian officials said, damaged civilian buildings. The European Union says that there is still room for mediation efforts in Nigeria, which has been grappling with uncertainty since mutinous soldiers led a coup on July 26th. And Taiwanese chip giant TSMC's board approves a $3.8 billion investment in a planned factory in Germany, as well as a capital injection of $4.5 billion for a plant being built in Arizona, United States. European climate monitoring organizations say that last month was the hottest July recorded in history, coming on the heels of the planet's hottest June. In recent weeks, Ukraine and Russia have been striking deep behind each other's defense lines. Both the countries have also allegedly attempted to assassinate one another's leaders. And in the latest, Kyiv has now detained a woman over her alleged plot to kill the Ukrainian president, Volodymyr Zelensky. Ukraine's intelligence agency, the Secret Service of Ukraine, said that the woman has been arrested in connection with the alleged assassination plot against Zelensky. The woman in question was sharing intelligence with Russia. She was preparing for a Russian airstrike in the Mykolaiv region with the help of Moscow, where Zelensky was scheduled to visit. She was collecting information, including the time and a list of locations Zelensky planned to attend in the southern region. The woman has not been identified. According to reports, she's a resident of Kyiv and a former military shop salesman. The assassination attempt comes as Zelensky regularly moves around the country. He makes unannounced visits to formerly occupied territories or areas near the front line. These visits require extreme caution due to the possibility of targeted Russian attacks. In early days of the war as well, he was thought to be a primary target for Moscow's forces and the subject of numerous foiled assassination attempts. The SSU's statement also said that it continued to document the woman's actions to learn more about her alleged Russian handlers. They even learned that she was instructed to locate the Ukrainian army's strategic assets near the town of Kyiv in the Mykolaiv region, which the agency claims the Russians were planning to use to launch a massive airstrike in that region. The statement further said that the woman was apprehended red-handed as she was trying to pass intelligence to the Russians. If convicted, she faces up to 12 years in prison. Meanwhile, in May, Moscow had claimed that Ukraine tried to assassinate Russian President Vladimir Putin in a drone attack on the Kremlin, which Ukraine continuously denies.
Дякую за слово. честь нагороди.
Служу українському народу.
Дякую за службу. Вітаю вас. Дякую за службу.
Despite a prevailing heat wave and temperatures fluctuating between the mid and high 30 degrees Celsius, that's about 86 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit, Ukrainian soldiers continue battling on the front line in a bid to ensure the success of the country's counteroffensive. A new release video shows that Ukraine's 37th Separate Marine Brigade firing shells from U.S.-supplied howitzers in the country's southern Donetsk region. This as the mercury continues to climb. It has not affected Ukrainian troops from creating conditions to advance forward step by step and have the initiative of the battle on their side. Loaded with howitzer ammunition and dozens of water bottles, they are now taking the war to the Russians. On the other hand, Moscow is also sparing no quarter. 2 Russian missiles struck the Ukrainian city of Pokrovsk in Donetsk on Monday evening. The alleged Russian strike hit multiple residential structures, leaving 8 dead, including 5 civilians and 31 others injured. Footage released by Ukrainian officials show emergency responders conducting search and rescue operations amid the rubble.
I went from the bedroom to the kitchen. The phone rang. I left it in the bedroom. It was a boy, a neighbor asking how I was. And then that's it. Bang. And that's all. The flame filled up my eyes. I fell down on the floor, on the ground. My eyes hurt a lot. Otherwise, I'm okay. Just the sharpening in my neck. That's it.
Well, the United States has made an alarming claim regarding China. According to the U.S. National Security Agency, Chinese military hackers compromised Japan's classified defense networks. A report by the Washington Post highlights the discovery made by the United States back in 2020. They added voices from 3 former senior U.S. officials who spoke on condition of anonymity. And according to the report, the hackers had deep access to plans and assessments of the Japanese military's shortcomings. Since then, Tokyo has taken various steps to strengthen its networks. The officers claimed the breach was so serious that head of the NSA and U.S. Cyber Command and White House Deputy National Security Advisor of the time rushed to Tokyo to warn the Japanese defense minister and then later met with the country's prime minister. Back here in the United States, then President Donald Trump was gearing up to run against Joe Biden. After the elections, the new Biden administration did not have enough time to address the issue as they were dealing with a hit with a series of alleged Russian breaches of American networks. By 2021, the Biden administration managed to balance their ship, and U.S. cybersecurity and defense officials realized the problem has become more intense as Chinese hackers were still meddling in Japanese networks. Since mid-2021, the U.S. has documented increasing Chinese interference in critical infrastructure around the world. According to a report by Microsoft, the targets include communication, transportation, and utility systems. Recently, China-based hackers breached emails of the U.S. Commerce Secretary, the U.S. envoy to China, and some other key senior diplomats. Earlier, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin hinted that the sharing of enhanced data between the U.S. and Japan could enter a sluggish phase if Japan fails to secure its networks. While replying to the report, his Japanese counterpart said that the government is responding as best as it can to cyber attacks through various initiatives. All right, let's move on to Europe. The illegal migration row in the UK continues to grow. The first set of migrants have been shifted to a large residential barge on its southern coast. And now the Rishi Sunak-led government has come up with new plans to tackle illegal crossings. Sunak has unveiled a voluntary partnership between social media firms and the government. The plan is to tackle online content sharing by criminals about illegal English Channel crossings. According to figures from the UK's National Crime Agency, over 90% of online content linked to people smuggling is tackled when social media firms are notified about them. According to the UK Home Secretary, the collaboration between the National Crime Agency, government, and social media companies will stop such content about illegal crossings. Meanwhile, the UK government is considering several housing options for migrants. According to the Home Office and its minister, the UK government is discussing plans to send people to a volcanic island in the south of the Atlantic. The official also addressed the issue that the proposal could replace the Rwanda plan should the government's plan fail. However, this is not the first time someone is proposing this idea. 3 years ago, then Home Secretary Priti Patel suggested the move to house migrants at Ascension Island. Ascension Island is roughly 4,100 miles from the UK, 1,000 miles from the coast of Africa, and 1,400 miles from the coast of South America. Well, just last week, Iran's foreign minister urged Pakistan to complete its part of a much-delayed gas pipeline between the two countries, and now Pakistan has pulled out. Tehran says it has already invested $2 billion in the pipeline on its side of the border. Here's a look at what's been happening. Pakistan has temporarily shelved the multi-billion-dollar gas pipeline project to import cheap energy from neighboring Iran. The project was initially conceived as India-Pakistan-Iran gas pipeline, but later New Delhi exited and it became a bilateral project between Islamabad and Tehran. Tehran has been claiming to have completed its side of the bargain, over 1,000 kilometers of pipeline. A groundbreaking ceremony was jointly conducted by then-President Asif Ali Zardari and Iran's former President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad in March of 2013. Pakistan had committed to completing its side of the project by January of 2015. However, in February of 2014, the then Petroleum Minister Shahid Abbasi told the parliament that the Iran-Pakistan project was off the table due to international sanctions. Pakistan has issued a force majeure and excusing event notice to Iran. Force majeure is a provision in a contract that frees both parties from obligation if extraordinary events directly prevents one or both parties from performing. A non-performing party may use a force majeure clause as excuse for non-performance for circumstances beyond the party's control and not due to any fault or negligence by the non-performing party. The project has been in cold storage for years. Pakistan has expressed its inability to pursue the project as long as U.S. sanctions on Iran remain in place or Washington tactically greenlights Islamabad to go ahead. Since 2005, the EU, the UN, and the United States sanctions have targeted Iran for violating treaties under which it promised not to pursue nuclear weapons. Iran has questioned Pakistan's force majeure notice. The question in this issue posed by Iran is, will the matter now be settled through international arbitration or not? Okay, now on to our next story. A seismic shift in the energy landscape as Saudi Arabia's oil giant ARAMCO reveals a dramatic 40% drop in profits for the second quarter. ARAMCO reported $30.7 billion in net profits for the second quarter, a drop of nearly 40% from the $48.4 billion recorded in the same period last year. The culprit, lower crude oil prices and weakening refining and chemical margins. The oil sector roller coaster continues as ARAMCO plummeting profits align with industry trends. The decline echoes the financial results of other energy giants like BP, ExxonMobil, Shell, and Total Energies, who have all struggled with reduced earnings due to the drag of weaker oil prices. As ARAMCO navigates this period of uncertainty, global attention toward upcoming UN climate talks hosted by the United Arab Emirates, with increased pressure to reduce reliance on fossil fuels. These events will serve as a pivotal backdrop for a discussion on sustainability energy strategies as well. Harnessing energy through nuclear fusion has been the holy grail for the energy sector. This is one solution that could allow humanity to break free from the clutches of fossil fuels' aggravating climate crisis, while humans seem to be one step closer towards that. Scientists here in the United States who carried out a nuclear fusion in December have now repeated the historic feat, and this time the output produced is even more. Last time, the lab used 192 ultra-powerful lasers to deliver around 2.05 megajoules of energy to a tiny capsule almost the size of a pea. The capsules containing isotype of hydrogen produced over 315 megajoules of energy output. So how does this affect you and me? We are living in a world where each day the threat of climate change is hitting closer to home. Our demand for energy is skyrocketing, and nuclear fusion can serve as a clean, abundant, and safe source of energy. You see, currently across the world, nuclear power plants use fusion to produce energy. The process involves the breaking up of a heavy atom's nucleus, that is, to generate energy. While fusion process combines two light hydrogen atoms to form one heavier helium atom. This in turn releases a large amount of energy. This is the process that is found at the heart of solar system's biggest star, the sun. Fusion, like fission process, does not emit harmful substances like carbon dioxide or other greenhouse gases, but it also has additional critical advantages. It poses no risk of nuclear disaster and produces much less radioactive waste. Fusion reaction can be undertaken by heating hydrogen to extreme temperatures inside specialized devices. And although there is still a way to go before nuclear fusion becomes viable to be used on an industrial scale, this is still a major step towards that.
You just close shutter and give me a 20 in spreadsheet.
So we've always been advised to keep a strong password to secure our digital accounts, but now it seems even that won't be much help thanks to the new technology of artificial intelligence. According to research, artificial intelligence can now steal your password by listening to what you type on your keyboard. Researchers at Cornell University here in the United States have discovered a new way for AI tools to steal your data: keystrokes. In simple words, they've designed a machine learning model that can discern which keys you hit on your keyboard just by their sound. Surprisingly, this new acoustic attack can detect your password with 95% accuracy when a microphone is placed next to a keyboard. That's not all. The AI has a 93% accuracy rate when keystrokes are recorded over Zoom calls or other video conference software. The researchers accomplished this by training an AI model by pressing the 36 key present on a MacBook Pro 25 times and recording the sound. They then fed the recorded sound into the AI, which was then able to correctly identify the pattern of each key. Now, it's worth noting that the make, type, and volume of the keyboard had little to do with the accuracy of the attack. Instead, the AI was able to identify the password based on the waveform, intensity, and timing of each keystroke. So, how can we protect ourselves from this new AI audio cyber attack? Well, researchers have suggested that we experiment with different typing styles when typing sensitive information, or we can even have software-based keystroke audio filters playing in the background while typing on our keyboards. So union battles at Hollywood might just introduce some new contenders. VFX workers at Marvel Studios have finally voted in favor of unionizing. Visual effect artists at the studio have finally petitioned to demand union recognition following multiple reports that VFX crew were being pushed to the extreme to meet unreasonable deadlines. Employees have previously spoken out against Marvel for making them work in untenable conditions, including long hours and 7-day weeks. 7-day weeks, that is. The International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees says that the Marvel's VFX crew has signed authorization cards indicating they wish to be represented by the union. These workers are VFX professionals employed directly by Marvel. It doesn't include the thousands of VFX artists that work on Marvel movies through third-party studios. The unionization effort marks the first time VFX professionals have banded together in Hollywood. And not surprisingly, the effort is taking place amidst the backdrop of Hollywood's labor stoppage. And wrapping up in the world of sports, where the PGA Tour's regular season ended on Sunday with Lucas Glover delivering a win. The top 70 player head to the playoffs this week, but ahead of that, there is a significant windfall for Jon Rahm. Let's tell you more. The Spaniard is world number 3 at the moment, but he has bagged a $4 million bonus for topping the regular season standing. Rahm, Scottie Scheffler, and Rory McIlroy dueled through the first 6 months of the year for the number 1 ranking and expected these 3 tops the standing. Rahm started the year with a win at the Sentry Tournament of